Pedro from A&P-REACTS. I'm here today with Alex from Nekrogoblikon, not to talk about Nekrogoblikon, but to talk about you, Alex, and your most influential guitar players. How's it going?
It's going well. It's going well. Can't complain. Things are going well. How about you?
Not bad, not bad. I think the last time I saw you was back in 2019 before this whole COVID nightmare at Heavy Montreal.
Oh, that was awesome. Did you hear about how that show, we almost missed our set on that show.
You guys had some issues with one of the guitars during the set. You guys were a little bit frustrated, but everybody was having such a great time. I don't think anybody really cared.
That's good. Yeah, because what happened is we were held up at the border for that show, and we made it, like, our bus made it into the fairgrounds like 15 minutes before we were supposed to go on, and we didn't even know where we were going, and we had to have golf carts get us to the stage in twos and threes. And we were like, all right, who needs the most time to set up? You guys go first. And we were so nervous that we were going to miss the show. We made it just in time. So yeah, we didn't have a lot of time to troubleshoot any potential problems with the gear, but we made it for the set. We didn't have to cut any songs. So
that summer you guys were part of the Summer Slaughter tour.
Yeah.
So I missed you guys in Toronto because I think you guys played Toronto on the Friday, if I'm not mistaken, or on the Sunday. And it was like one day you were playing Toronto and one day you were playing Heavy Montreal. So
Toronto was the next day. Yeah.
I don't know which day was first or second, but I know that was like back-to-back days you guys were playing Montreal and Toronto. Mm-hmm. And I remember telling my son, we were on the whole other side of the venue. I think it was Cataclysm that was playing. And I said to him, hey, Nekrogoblikon goes on like in 10 minutes. We need to make our way all the way there. Because if there was one band we didn't want to miss, was you guys. I mean, we're huge fans. We definitely didn't want to miss the show. So I'm glad that you guys didn't miss the show. That would have been
right. Yeah, I'm really glad we made it. Yeah, Heavy Montreal, that was our second time playing that festival. And that's both times it's been so much fun. So
really it was fun seeing you guys on stage, regardless of all the little issues that I thought you guys were going to smash one of the guitars. You looked like you were at a wit's end. But,
I think there was an issue with the wireless. Yeah,
I think it just added to the whole flavor of the performance. So I was totally fine with it.
That's great. I'm glad it didn't take away.
You guys could have gone full acoustic. I could care less. I just wanted to see you guys on stage. I was just so happy that I got to listen to a couple of songs because your set was really short. I was just happy to hear you guys play a bunch of tracks. I honestly, I couldn't have been, I was happier than a pig in shit.
Thank you. I'm glad you appreciated it.
Before we get started with your top 5 most influential guitar players, I want to ask you a couple of questions about you. How old were you when you picked up the guitar? And was the guitar the first instrument that you went for?
The first instrument I went for was bass when I was 12. And shortly after I picked up guitar also, and I played. So it was like when I was like 14, I bought my first guitar. And I'm 33 now, so I've been playing for 20 years-ish, I would say. That's all there is to that part.
Did you take any lessons, or you were self-taught?
I took lessons on bass, so that gave me kind of fundamentals that I applied to guitar. Guitar, I never took any lessons. I took a few lessons here and there from different people, like kind of in my 20s, because I just wanted to improve and learn how to improve my speed and all aspects of my playing. But when I first started learning techniques and learning like sweep picking and stuff, I just picked it up on my own, kind of thing.
Did you always have the goal of being a musician, being in a band, touring, playing in all sorts of different countries?
It was always my dream. I didn't know how to go about it. I just knew I wanted to play. I didn't think it would happen. I just, I played and I would dream about it, and one thing led to another over time, and here I am. But
was your family supportive of you? Because I'm sure, like, if my son came home and said, I want to be a professional musician, I'd say, okay, get a real job.
Right. And my parents were I have to say they were supportive, but like very hesitantly supportive. Like it was okay, but make sure you have a fallback, and and that's still important because I don't think there's very few people who are living off music alone, you know, so it's still important that to have side hustles and everything, but
Side hustle, I love that.
Yeah. But yeah, no one, my parents definitely didn't think that, you know, I'd be in a touring band playing internationally or any of that kind of stuff. So
do you remember the first song that you learned on the guitar?
The first song, I feel like it was like a Papa Roach song or something.
Last Resort, maybe.
No, it was a track on that album. It wasn't, I don't think it was a single. It was one that actually had a kind of like Iron Maiden-ish guitar riff in it. And this was before I listened to Iron Maiden. I realized a lot of those melodies were very Maiden-esque, but I didn't realize it at the time when I first was listening to them, because I was like all completely into that new metal scene.
Yeah, you were all absorbed by it.
Yeah.
Going into the list of your 5 most influential guitar players, I want to start off with Brian May from Queen. Not an odd one for me, but perhaps for a lot of people, considering what you're playing, Brian May seems a little bit coming out of left field. What was it about Brian May?
So that was an interesting pick for me, because that one kind of came from the fact that it's not just like, I love Queen and I love Brian May's playing, but I also hear his playing in so many other, I feel like he's influenced so many of the other guitarists that have influenced me, that he's kind of a source. You know, his like articulation, the way he, you know, and in his own words, what he tries to do is make his guitar sing. It's just, he had such great melodies, all the harmonies, his way of like accenting Queen songs with like that energy was that was something that I've always wanted to recreate in other music. So, and I feel like so many metal musicians were influenced by him too. Like I feel like I hear him in so many others playing.
Yeah,
I felt like
maybe not without even knowing that they are. You know what I mean? Because he's
right.
When you think of Queen, you know, most people go to Freddie Mercury. That's like, you know, like the two are connected. I mean, you can't break them apart. Brian May kind of gets like he writes Shotgun, but you know what I mean? Like, but he's not the main name that people immediately associated with Queen. So maybe he became an influence without actually necessarily feeling like he is an influence, if you know what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah. He seems to have like a humble view towards his playing. Yeah. I don't think he realizes how much he's influenced this, like a whole genre of music. I feel like.
Do you remember the first song you heard from Queen, or how you were exposed to the band?
I'm pretty sure it was from Bohemian Rhapsody because of Wayne's World. Because of that movie. Yeah. I think that was my first introduction. But I got into Queen a lot later though. Like I knew that song, I knew some of their hits, but I think, you know, I didn't really start listening to full albums by them until like, you know, probably my mid-20s, something like that. That's when I was like, hey, let me listen to like Queen albums all the way through. And, you know, it's, you know, great, obviously. I don't think I've heard a bad Queen song.
No, and they had a very eclectic way of building their records. I mean, I don't think you can find 2 songs that sound similar on the same album.
Right. Yeah. There's like songs that you can hear similarities in writing and everything, but there's nothing they do sounds redundant to me.
Yeah, they were so unique in their own way. And Brian May has a huge factor into that uniqueness, because a lot of the song construction, a lot of it depends on him and his playing style. Now, is there anything specifically from him that you took and tried to incorporate in your own way of playing?
I think in terms of that similar, the sense of trying to kind of really not always try to shred all the time, but like really have like again, like I mentioned, parts that sing, have melodic playing and harmonized playing. I feel like he always comes to mind when I play it and write stuff like that. So I don't know how direct it is. I don't think there's any like exact lines I've taken from him, but not to my knowledge. But I think of him during part, sometimes when I just add like a little, just harmonized, like little stab here and there. Just, it could be like 2 notes, but it just reminds me of Queen. So
you're like, yeah, I'm channeling my inner Brian May.
Yeah, yeah.
The next name on your list for me was really interesting. It's Devin Townsend. I mean, the guy's a absolutely legend, and the fact that I'm Canadian makes him even a bigger legend. What was it about his playing style, and at what point of his career did you discover him? Because the guy's got an extensive career.
Right. Yeah. And I was gonna say, so like, and that's a case of like, I discovered Strapping Young Lad because they were touring really heavily. So I feel like I saw them with a few different bands. And are you there still? I think I'm not sure if I lost you. Okay. It looked like you were frozen. Okay, there you are. You're back. Okay. So yeah, I liked Strapping Young Lad, but it wasn't until the Devin Townsend project that I really started like diving deep. And I actually saw him with Children of Bodum one time, and like I was just like blown away by the performance, and dug into all of his solo material. And he was really influential to me, not only because he's so good at guitar and his songwriting is great, but I took note of kind of a lot of the restraint he kind of uses when writing. Like he doesn't throw solos on top of everything. He's so focused on the song and what serves the song, what's good for the song, instead of just showing what he can do, because he can do a lot. But I pondered that a lot, and I think that was an influence on me in terms of also holding back a little bit, because I feel like there was an era of the band where we tried to throw guitar solos and leads on everything, like whenever there was a possibility. And it was fun, I don't like regret it, but it's something that I feel like, does the song need it, or should I save these kind of moments for when it will be more helpful to someone, uplifts the entire song rather than just myself and my
do you feel like that's also perhaps a little bit of part of growing and understanding what do you want more, and understanding what the track needs more? Like when you're young, or younger, I mean, you're a young dude, but when you're younger, you kind of want to go balls to the wall all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's no need for restraint when you're younger. Being young is about a lack of restraint.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But so I think I like matured into a taste for Devin Townsend. I guess I could put it that way.
Yeah, it's an acquired taste.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was in Heavy Montreal. Speaking of Heavy Montreal, he was there. He played an acoustic set. Did you see him, or?
We were hearing it while we were scrambling to get to the stage, and we'd be like have like these tense moments of like, all right, are they going to pick us up, or like what's going to happen? And then we hear him in the background. He was kind of like comforting us as we were panicking, trying to get to the stage. Like, all right, well, at least I would hear it, and we're like, oh, well, that's cool. And he's such a funny frontman too. Like, I don't remember what his rant was while we were listening, but I just remember we were cracking up.
I think he spent more time talking during that set than he did playing.
I could watch a whole set of him just talking and not playing.
I don't think you're alone. He's such a character. I mean, everything about him is so outside the box, everything Absolutely. That he's done throughout his career, his playing style, like you said, his control, because this is a guy who could absolutely, I don't know, like do the unimaginable in a song, but he really finds a way of just doing what the song calls for. And that's not an easy thing for you to do, especially when you can do a lot more.
Right. And then he has such great songs that are so simple. Like they could be the first song you learn on guitar, but they're just so well written, like just, and so catchy. I'm thinking, what comes to mind right now is like Vampira. That song is, that's like a hard rock song. It's not any, but it's just so catchy. Like it's so fun to listen to,
Sometimes when you're talking to people about their music and you mention the word simple, people get a little bit offended, because it's almost like simple is a bad thing. And I don't see it that way. Simple is not a bad thing. Like sometimes you need something that's simple and still great.
I think the more you can say with less notes, the better. And it's harder too. If you're only given, you have to make every note count more when there's less of them. So to make something that's kind of iconic, like a great, just catchy riff that's not very difficult to play, I think there's a degree of genius to that you can't achieve with a bunch of 16th notes.
I agree with you.
40 BPM.
And I have nothing against the more complicated and elaborate stuff. That stuff is great. The more technical
I love that
side,
stuff.
yeah, the more technical side is great too. But I just feel like there's beauty in both camps, and you don't have to necessarily just love one and hate the other. You can absolutely enjoy both.
Totally, yeah.
The next name on your list is AJ Minette from the Human Abstract. Wow, this is a departure from, you go Brian May, Devin Townsend, and now AJ Minette. I mean, you're going in a different direction.
Yeah, I tried to choose guitarists that were from all ends, that would like all encompassing of my influence. And AJ is someone I actually know personally. He of the Human Abstract. The drummer Brett is actually Nekrogoblikon's manager, so we're very close with those guys. And AJ, he's one of the people that I've actually taken a few lessons from personally. But when Human Abstract released their first album, Nocturne, I was in a band with some friends before Nekrogoblikon, and our singer at the time was like, "You have to hear this album." And it just the playing really got to me. That was an album that made me want to learn sweep picking way better, and just all the neoclassical influences in the parts it's stuff I still listen to today, and it's great stuff.
Have you had a chance to tell him about the impact that he had on you and how much he's influenced you, or does he know?
He knows. Yeah, I've hinted at it. I'm like, oh yeah, like I think during a few of the times I'm like, oh yeah, that like he knows I know the material really well, and I think he sees the influence in some of my some of the solo stuff. But yeah, I don't know if I said it point blank, but maybe I'll send him this interview.
Is he, knowing him, and because this is an interesting aspect, because not everybody is lucky enough to have somebody who's influenced their playing style also be somebody who they know now and they're friends with. So do you use them sometimes as a soundboard when you're stuck on something and you're not really sure which direction to take on a track? Not so much in that way. And I should also clarify that I'm not, like, Nicky's kind of the main writer of Nekrogoblikon. So he's the one doing like 95% of the composition, maybe even more, maybe like 98%. I'll add stuff here and there, and I provide a little bit of direction, but yeah, it like the writing is all Nicky. I kind of you're fine tuning it.
Yeah, I fine tune. I add I'll add my flavor to it. I'll add a solo here and there. I'll embellish parts, but but to answer your question, he's kind of someone I came to when I had problems, like either I had written a part or Nicky written a part. So, especially in this age, it's very easy to write stuff that you can't play yet. Like it's very easy to compose something awesome, and then you pick up your guitar and you're like, oh shit, like how am I going to play this? He was someone who helped me like kind of get over some barriers with playing difficult material, and he gave me some tips, some ways to approach stuff, because that band was all about writing amazing stuff that they had to sit down and just grind to learn. So he very, very well versed in tackling obstacles like that.
And how do you approach the aspect of working on a song for the recording? Like, yeah, you're in the studio, you're working on a track, you're going to record it on the album. At any point in time during that process, do you think, how are we going to play this live? Does that cross your mind?
A lot, yeah. Especially when so our producer Jason Sukoff, he's also a guitarist, so he'll throw in a lot of ideas too, and it'll sometimes be something like, he's like, oh yeah, do this right here, and I'm like, you want me to insert a part that I'm like, well, how am I going to do this live? He's like, you can just worry about that later. I'm like, all right. I've been able to pull it off so far, but yeah, it's great. I like being challenged, and I like having to like have a fire under my ass to be able to nail something.
Well, I was going to say, one of the challenges, besides the audio issue with the guitar in Heavy Montreal, was fitting all of you guys on stage, because the stage was really tiny.
Oh, yeah.
And like, I was like, what they going to do? There was so many of you in such a small stage that you didn't have a lot of room Do you like to have the ability to have room to spread your wings, if you will, when you're playing guitar, or do you focus and you're 100% in tune with what you're doing and you kind of like forget about everything else that's around you?
Yeah, it kind of depends on the show. And it kind of depends on our how everyone's feeling that day. There's like a, you know, when the whole band's really feeling it, we'll like, you know, want to like switch sides on stage, run around and have some kind of antics, you know, like we're all on wireless. We have it set up so that if we want to run around and play, we can. But it completely depends on the energy we're feeling. Heavy Montreal, I felt like it was a smaller stage than I think we were anticipating for Heavy Montreal, but it never felt like that. Didn't feel like it got in our way, because I think we've always been a larger band that's, especially when we first started touring, we had to play some real shitholes, and so we've made
You're putting
it
nicely.
Yeah, we've had times where we were like literally shoulder to shoulder on stage and had no room, or a member had to be off stage. So I think just being able to fit us all just decently comfortable on the stage like is already great. Like we're like okay, we can make this work.
You guys have a really low bar.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we don't expect much.
The next name on your list is a combo, and it's Head and Monkey from Korn.
Yeah.
Do you remember the album or the song that opened the door? I know you said you were into new metal at that time period, so I'm assuming Korn was a huge influence on you.
Korn was the first, like, I think that was my first favorite band, you know, and they were first band that I like just completely obsessed over. And it was around the time that they were just they'd taken over the world with like Follow the Leader and Issues. And yeah, that was kind of that's what got me to start wanting to play guitar. It was just, and I think that's what got me playing seven string Ibanez's too, was, you know, knowing that that's how they achieved that crushing tone. Yeah.
Super chunky.
Yeah. And it was so, you know, so they influenced me on that level of like kind of like the sounds I could make with a guitar, and not so much on especially at this age, you know, I wouldn't look to Korn for like melodic inspiration, just because my sensibilities have changed a lot. But in terms of the sounds they can get, and they still sound amazing live, and you know, it's still a sought after like tone, like the way they make it sound. It's still, you know, in current metal, I feel like it's been emulated a lot, and people are going lower and lower with tones, and everyone has, it's gone in so many directions, and people have perfected so much, but I still feel I still yearn for that exact sound that they achieved. Like,
yeah, it's very unique.
20 years ago, 25 years ago.
Yeah. Dude, when you first heard them or saw them, for me was with Blind, actually. That was the first time I saw the video on TV, and I was like, wow, who are these guys?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, because for me it was twofold. It was the sound. They had a very unique chunkiness to their sound, but also the way they looked. Yeah. I mean, they look cool. You know what I mean? The guitar is super low. You know what I mean? Like bent over, like just, I don't know. There was just something about Korn that the way they looked was the visual description of how they sounded. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, it was all the whole package, the whole experience of Korn, from like what they looked like, what it sounded like, the lyrics, the artwork. It was so well done, well put together, and it was like it was this experience. I feel like there was every bit about that band was a talking point, something like, you know, just the way the bass sounded. Like that, it also influenced me as a bassist, you know, because that was the first that I picked up, as I mentioned. You know, I'm like, oh, how do I get my bass to sound like that? That's so cool. You know, and it's kind of a controversial tone. But it was something that, it was another aspect that made them unique. I feel like they had so many different things, and then they had the bagpipe songs, and like, I can't imagine anyone else having that combination of ideas. Like, let's
making it work.
Yeah, making it work. you know, Adidas tracksuits, bagpipes, you know, down-tuned guitars to A, like I love that aspect of it. Like, 'cause like who else would combine all these things successfully together, you know?
Yeah, it looked like everything was going against the grain, but for some reason that everything worked so perfectly for them. And they're one of those bands that you hear one note and you know you're listening to Korn.
Yeah, totally. It was the timing, I think, it was like right when grunge was dying. It was like the perfect time for something new, I think, is what made it really special at the time too.
And they're one of those few bands from that era that really didn't change at all. They've kept true to their sound, to their approach. And Head and Monkey, those two guys, I mean, as far as two guitar players on one band, they're really lucky to have two guys like that. Like it's not very common, but and they really complement each other really well.
Yeah, they kind of like their phrases kind of like they kind of finish each other's sentences in certain verses. I feel like they have like a call and response aspect, which is also unique, which I feel like I had never heard before in a guitar duo.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. Last but not least on your list, I mean, this guy, there's not enough words in the English dictionary to like describe what he has done for metal and musicians and fans and everybody around the world. And his name is Alexi Laiho from Children of Bodum, or Bodum After Midnight. That was his new upcoming band now. How did you take, before we go into how he influenced you as a guitar player, how did you take the news of his passing?
I was shocked. I mean, and I'm the kind of person where, you know, generally I mentally have a divide between, you know, people that I know in my life and, you know, people I look, and then like rock star idols that I have that I never got to meet Alexi. So I feel like I always was the kind of person like, well, if I never knew them, and then it, you know, won't affect me that much. But I was surprised. Like I was kind of like, that hit me hard. But it got me thinking, you know, why did this, because, you know, he very like most influential guitarist to me and most influential band to me, and to the rest of Nekrogoblikon. Like it hit us all hard, and we were like, there so many of us, like our keyboardist also, you know, started shredding on keys because he was listening to Bodum also. And yeah, it was something, it was one of those moments you're like, wow, like that, if that dude never did what he did, like our lives would be completely different. He was like, the first time I learned sweep picking was from a Children of Bodum song, Silent Night, Bodum Night. We even like, there's a Nekrogoblikon song, actually. There's a song on Stench called Invasion, and that's one that I wrote. And it's basically a Bodum ripoff song. It's just like, you know, the euphemistic way to call it would be a tribute, but you know, in all honesty, it's a ripoff song. but I was just listening to Bodum so much at the time that I just want to sound like this. So we have a song that makes it very clear that we listen to Bodum.
He's such an influence, not just on musicians like yourself, but like for me, I went to Finland in 2019 and I went to Lake Bodum. You know what I mean? Because like that was the impact that his music had on me, that if I go to Finland, if I go to Helsinki, I gotta go to Lake Bodum. Like I just have to. So I have a bunch of pictures just outside the lake looking like an
That's
Indian.
awesome.
You know what I mean? Just, and then afterwards we went to his bar that he has in Helsinki, and a friend of ours who's a guitar player for Wintersun, he made some phone calls, and we actually got to go into the private lounge and sit there and take some pictures and take it all in. So, awesome. You know, even though he never made me pick up the guitar, because I'm not musically inspired kind of person. I don't think I could play if my life depended on it. But he inspired me from just being a huge fan of his music, to the point that I wanted to travel there to see what inspired the band's name and the history and all of that stuff. It just tells you how far reaching he was as a musician.
Yeah, I didn't even know he had a bar. That's awesome.
Yeah, he has a bar in Helsinki, downtown Helsinki, and it's like a metal bar, right? Like, so if you go there, the chances of you coming across musicians is like extremely high, because everybody kind of hangs out there. And then they have like in the back, they have like a private Children of Bodum lounge just for the members of the band.
Oh, wow.
to go into, so like they don't have to socialize with the regular folks. Not that they don't want to, but it's just like a private like champagne
they can take a break from it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a private champagne room. So our buddy Asim, he's friends with some guys in the Bodum family, and he made some phone calls, and we got permission to go and just sit there and take pictures and have a smile year to year. Like, you know, it was absolutely insane for fans of the band to be able to do something like that. I think it was crazy.
That's amazing. Yeah, I would love to go there. We've I don't think any of us have been to Finland before.
Oh, you love that.
I would love to. Yeah, we'd love to play there too. There's definitely a demand for it. We just haven't.
You guys got to play at Tuska. I'm surprised those guys at the festival never invited you guys to play there. Like, I'm shocked.
It's kind of with the festivals. It's kind of like it is a thing where once there's some big festivals you get that kind of there's a domino effect that if you get on one festival, then suddenly all these other festivals start giving you offers, and we're getting a kind of a slow domino effect with it, where like every time we kind of do a festival run, we do a new one we haven't done before.
Yeah, not to get off topic, but last year, you guys were supposed to play Summer Breeze last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Before the whole COVID thing, because we were coming to Summer Breeze because we're friends with the guys at the festival, and we were going to be doing some of their online coverage. And I was really excited about seeing you guys there, because I thought, like, okay, now they're not going to put you guys on this dinky little stage like they did in Montreal. They're going to give you guys a much bigger platform, and how badass that's going to be. I was so excited. And then obviously COVID happened.
Right. And Summer Breeze, I remember looking at our schedule and I noticed we were on the same stage as Bodum After Midnight. And I flipped. I'm like, no way, we're going to be playing the same stage. It's amazing.
I forgot they were on the list too for last year. Wow.
Yeah.
It's just a lot worse now.
Yeah, right. But that was the main thing I was looking forward to about playing that. I'm like, oh, we're finally playing with Bodum. That's amazing.
Do you remember the first Bodum song that you heard? And that really was the trigger that flipped for you?
I think the first song I ever heard was the title track, Hatebreeder, off that album. I don't know if that's the one that completely made me a fan yet. I know that's the first one I heard. It might have been Hate Me off Fall the Reaper that sold me and got me to buy all the albums and listen obsessively. I think that's. Did
you have a chance to see him play live?
I saw them many times, yeah. And that was another thing that I think was so great about Bodum was how much fun they are. Like I feel like most bands that where they have like a virtuosic playing, it's a show where me and whoever I'm going with, we kind of want to stay in the back and just watch and observe and like, wow, they're really killing it. That's awesome. And Bodum shreds, but that's a show where we're like, let's get drunk, let's rock, kind of like that aspect, because they're so much fun. The songs are so catchy, and it's such an important aspect. Like there was nothing about Bodum ever felt pretentious to me. It was always fun and awesome. And I remember I was talking to my son when the news broke that he passed away. Of our first ever experience with Bodum was we went to see them in 2017, was their 20-year anniversary tour. Oh, wow.
And they played Needle 24/7. And I've never seen a mosh pit starting at the back of the venue. And it was a wave that came from the back of the venue all the way to the front. And then when it hit the front, it came all the way back again. It was like the wave at the soccer game, but it was in a mosh. You know what I mean? Like, I've never seen anything like that in my life. My son at the time, I can't remember how old he was, but he's got to be like 12 at the time, something like that. He was really young. We lost each other.
Oh, no.
That was the third song on the set. We lost each other. We didn't find each other again until the 9th song on the set, almost at the end of the night. And I'm like, my wife is going to kill me. I brought my son to a metal show, and now I lost my 11-year-old in this crowd. Like, where the hell is he? You know what I mean? So those are the memories that I take away, like those experiences that he was able to provide all of us as fans. It's just, I don't think his legacy he'll ever die out. Like he had such an impact on musicians, fans, bands. It's unreal.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and I've been seeing a lot of articles popping up and posing that like perhaps Children of Bodom was a huge influencer in the kind of the uprising of metalcore everything in America. And I'd never thought of that, but the timing like of it all plays like that, I'd say. And so,
I think they had an influence far deeper than what people originally thought. Because a lot of people think, well, they were a huge influential band in Finland. There was a lot of bands that came after them that kind of sound like them or try to sound like them, or maybe they want to emulate that formula, catch lightning in the bottle, if you will. But I think their influence is far deeper than that. Like you said earlier, a band like you guys with keyboards, guitar, like everything else, definitely has a little bit of that Children of Bodom flavor to it.
Right. Yeah. It's hard to even have keyboards in a metal band and not think about Bodum, at least for me. Yeah. So I think,
especially if the band is heavy, like in a heavy band
where they're growling.
That uses a lot of melody as well. That's like they're heavy but melodic at the same time. So I think it's almost impossible to look at a band like that and not kind of think of Children of Bodom, at least to a certain extent.
Agreed.
Yeah, he was. I was absolutely shocked. I mean, I saw him in the last tour that they did in North America. He didn't look very healthy, but I don't know if you saw him on the last tour run that they did.
I saw pictures of him on that run. Actually, it was like, a friend of ours was at the show, and she sent us a picture. Like, he looks like something's wrong. Apparently, he was having health issues for the last.
Yeah, he's had health issues for a while, and he didn't look very healthy. I honestly didn't know if they were even going to be able to make the whole tour run because he didn't look like himself. But from all accounts now, he was doing better. Excited about Bodum After Midnight, releasing a new record, all of that stuff. So this kind of came a little bit, while it wasn't perhaps a complete shock, for me, it was still a surprise. And like you said earlier, I've lost a lot of people who I grew up listening to. It's just, as you get older, people tend to die. It's just the way it is. Yeah. But I've never really been hit as hard as I was about his passing. For something about him that just hit me a lot harder, almost like a family member.
Yeah, it really, this one cut deep for me, for sure. Yeah, same. Yeah, I didn't think it would. Like, I didn't even consider that as a possibility. I didn't think, because he was relatively young.
Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't think that was going to be a thing I had to like even think about. So it was like a complete shock. I found out right when it was announced. It was like 3 a.m. here, but I think it was morning in Europe. So I think that's when the word started getting around. I was like, holy shit. Just immediately text the rest of the band in the group chat, letting them know, because it was,
it was crazy. My phone was blowing up all night. I could hear the vibration of the phone. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, then when I woke up in the morning, I'm like, holy shit, this can't be real. This got to be a joke or whatever. Like, it just didn't seem real. It was hard to wrap my head around that he was gone. It was a really tough news to swallow.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, same experience. Yeah.
So now the question that I have for you is, I mean, you guys are not strangers to doing some cool ass, badass covers. Mm-hmm. Is there a Children of Bodom cover in the future?
There definitely could be. We're learning a song right now.
All right.
I don't think we're gonna like record it the way we did Chop Suey and put it out. I think it's gonna be more of a performance cover that we'll put up online. But hopefully it's something we can use. I just started learning the song because I just wanted to learn it, and like, hearing about his passing kind of like just made me really think about Bodum, and it's like, I want to learn an Alexi solo. So it kind of started with there, and then our keyboardist was like, hey, I want to learn the keyboard solo of that song. And I'm like, oh, cool. And then, so we're not even like for sure gonna do a cover, but we're all learning the song right now. So that's where we're at with it.
So there's still some light at the end of the tunnel. I like that.
Yeah.
that Chop Suey cover, by the way, that was insane.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, that was something I had been wanting to do for a really long time, was to cover System of a Down, because I felt like it was like Toxicity was like an all-time favorite for both me and Nikki, and it felt like they had a zaniness and a catchiness that that I felt like we related to as a band, and I felt like we could convey that using one of their songs. And
you guys have definitely made it your own though.
Absolutely, yeah. That was very much Nicky's doing with adding so much of the electronic aspect to it, and the accordions you hear in the beginning and everything, all the zany instruments. Yeah.
At one point I was like, what is happening right here, right now? Like this track is like off the rails, but in a good way. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just insanity. But at the same time, that's such a part of your sound and of who you guys are as a band.
Thank you. Yeah. I think that's kind of like, I think covers can kind of contextualize your band and kind of show that you are like, you have a certain quality that people might have not noticed before because they didn't know where to place it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that was one of our goals with doing the Chop Suey cover. It's like, see, we're kind of in this territory a little bit, or at least we want to be.
Yeah, but you guys did a great job. I love that song.
Thank you.
Like when I saw that popping up, I was like, oh, I gotta check this out. I mean, like, what do they have in store for us with this thing? So it's just, for me, a cover has to have a lot of the DNA of the band who's covering it. Because if I want to listen to the original, I just go listen to the original. So if I want to listen to a cover, it's got to sound unique to the band that's performing it.
Exactly. Right. And that's you can't compete with an original, especially a song like that. So if you don't make it your own, then you're just competing with them. And it's like, well, how can you beat the original? Like it's an amazing song, So the only way for me to, in my opinion, to do the song justice and to be like respectful even is to make it your own.
Make it your own. Yeah, I agree with you. Well, Alex, thank you very much for your time today, man. I really appreciate it. This was a pleasure. This was an absolute blast. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I had a great time, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.